On last week's Wednesday's Politics episode, we heard criticism about a decades-long tradition in city government, Councilmanic Prerogative, and an informal power that our 10 district city council members hold. It allows council members to greenlight or stop projects on city-owned land in their districts and get the final say on zoning changes. Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, Jr., who represents the 5th District, which includes parts of North Philly and Center City, is here to defend this practice, especially when it comes to his refusal to allow the long-planned reconstruction of the Cecil B. Moore Library to move forward. It's Wednesday, January 14th. I'm Trinity Nuri, and we're talking politics. Councilmember Jeffrey Young, Jr., it's great to have you finally on the show. Last week, we spoke to Daniel Pearson, a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's been super critical of how you have used this very Philly practice called Councilmanic Prerogative to block the renovations of North Philly's Cecil B. Moore Library within your district. But I want to say thank you for coming on the show to share your side of the experience. So, Councilmember, catch me up. There's money that's been allocated for the reconstruction of the library. There's a community group, Save the Cecil B. Moore Library Coalition, that supported this plan. And now the next step would be for you to sign what is called a notice to proceed, which allows renovations to begin. And so the question is, why haven't you signed that yet?
So first, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on the show, to have the opportunity to talk to folks on the situation. The Cecil B. Moore Library is a library that is very near and dear to me because I was raised in that community, that very community where the library is. I studied for the bar exam in that library, right? So it is something, it's a place that community, and it just holds near and dear. It's named after one of my idols, Cecil B. Moore, right? I would not literally be sitting in this seat but for the efforts of Cecil B. Moore and to desegregate Girard College, which was mentioned, where that's my alma mater. And so when it comes to this library specifically, I think that the community wasn't given the option to imagine what could be there, right? To imagine what a future could be for our community. They were just told, hey, here's $1 million for you to renovate the library. While other facilities around the city under the Rebuild Initiative were actually getting rebuilt. For example, the Cecil B. Moore Rec Center in my district is getting rebuilt as we speak. It's going to be a brand new space, a brand new asset for that community. And I think that throughout the 5th District in North Philadelphia specifically, we deserve to have those new things that's going to lead us into the future. And so when I came to office, one of the very first things I did as a budget priority is to secure an additional $5 million for capital improvements of the Cecil B. Moore Library. Now, that brung the total to about close to $10 million total for the Cecil B. Moore Library. And realizing that the momentum we were having at that time, realizing that, $10 million is a lot of money that can go toward the future. As a representative of that community, as someone who was raised in that community, I said, what will be better for this community than having a brand new space, a space that all families can grow in. It can be an intergenerational space. It can provide the things that we need to provide to communities for today.
Okay, so what I hear you saying, Councilmember Young, is that you had a new idea to kind of take the library to a new building, a new site. Was that your vision for Cecil B. Moore Library?
Originally, we gave the community options on what the community wanted to see. And I believe that, having a new library was an option on that current site. A new library with affordable housing as an option was proposed.
So like a mixed-use building.
A mixed-use building was proposed along with a new option. Just a simple library itself was proposed, a new library. Those were proposed. Those are on the table. And talking to folks in communities after going to the community meeting that was held, we saw what the best option was for the community, and that best option was to build a new library. And it seems
So the
that
old library would get knocked down.
so that was an option again on the
Okay.
after more community input and feedback. Community wants to preserve the current space. That's perfectly fine. So what we did was identified land that within a half a mile of the current space where a brand new library could be built. It can still benefit North Philadelphia, can still benefit our communities in the same manner without having to tear down that current building.
Okay. So in the meantime, like right now, the community is still using the original site, the same old building that needs ADA accessibility, a space for teens, new technology. Is that true?
That current library is up and running.
Okay.
All the things that the community would like to see, that folks want to imagine for a space, the current footprint of that Cecil B. Moore Library is just too small to hold everything that we need in the 21st century library. The footprint does not even allow for the expansion of the building to go vertical. The way the foundation is set up, we can't even build on top of it to include more space. So the only option, if we want to provide more equity to our community, is to build a new library.
I wanted to point that out because I saw some footage of the December 4th, 2025 council meeting, and you said it yourself. You said that this issue over the library, specifically the Cecil B. Moore Library, has, quote, like you said, sparked strong feelings. And you said you wanted to see a commitment to equality. Why do you think that it's the library? Why is it sparking such strong feelings? Because the construction, according to the Save the Cecil B. Moore Library Coalition website, says this construction should have happened more than 400 days ago.
So if the original rebuild plans were to happen, which was approximately, I think they were allocated about $1 million first, and ultimately when it came down to it, it was almost close to $5 million that was allocated. Yes, that rehab, right? I was not even want to say construction, it's a rehab of that library would have taken place. But again, it does not provide us with the things that we need for the future. And understanding how government works with very, very limited resources, we would have been stuck with that same footprint, that same library for that community for another 60 years, right? That library was built in 1961, which means today my 7-8-year-old is going to be using the same facility that a 7 or 8-year-old used back in 1961. Now, you know how technology moves and how things are. This is a totally different world now. And to use that same space will just continually to set our Black and brown kids behind in that community.
Okay, so there's $10 million allocated. That was funds given through the city and funds collected from community support. What happens to that money, though, if the rehab doesn't happen?
That money is still with the city of Philadelphia. That money is always allocated to the Cecil B. Moore Library. Rather, that is a current structure, a brand new building. Those funds can be transferred to the development of a new building as well.
Okay, so what's the compromise and when is it going to happen? When's North Philly going to get this new Cecil B. Moore Library, period?
So
when's the timeline? Yeah.
So we are still gathering the additional funds to build a new library. These are something that is not going to happen overnight, but if we continue to work toward getting more budget allocations for this library, working with the private sector, we can come up with the funds to develop a new library. And in the meantime, I've always been committed to ensuring that the current structure gets the things that it needs to remain an open space, a welcoming space. And so as we work together to build that future for North Philadelphia, we can continue to preserve the current structure as well. I mean, the issue that we have with our libraries is citywide, right? It's not just the Cecil B. Moore Library. over half the libraries were closed during the summertime because of heating and cooling issues, right? Right now, currently, the Fishtown Library, which is also in my district, closed today because they have HVAC issues. So our
But
system...
weren't there libraries also closed because of the District Council 33 strike as well? And maybe not so much like infrastructure issues?
Well, no. I'm specifically saying they were closed because of infrastructure issues, not because of the strike.
Okay.
There were libraries that were closed because of infrastructure issues,
Okay.
right? Outside of the strike,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you have this system-wide issue, we have to think holistically here and stop putting, what I call lipstick on a pig, perfume on garbage, whatever you want to say, right? These, I think we have to really look at our system as a whole and figure out what do we want, what is best for our communities, what's best for our children, what's best for our seniors, what's best for everyone involved, all of the users here, and how can we get to that particular issue. We have a $500 billion, it seemed like, $500 million a deficit when it comes to our libraries and our capital needs, right? So if we're able to work toward this long-term investment, if we have half the money we need right now, which is half the battle, we have half the money we need right now to usher us into the future, let's continue to go there, right? Let's not throw bad money at essentially a bad building, an older building. That building is a sick building. Folks mentioned that there is space in the basement. You can't use the space in the basement. That's this extra unexcavated space that when you talk to the experts at the city's capital programs office, they will tell you that space is unusable. When you talk to the experts in the city's capital programs office, they'll tell you we cannot build on top of the current structure, engineering wise. It's not safe to do. So
why do you think that the community members feel so passionate about having it at the current site then?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest. The community members mentioned, specific members of that coalition have mentioned historic aspects of the building itself. And that's great, right? We can preserve a building. We can preserve a building for community space, public space. That is, we can do all of those things while at the same time ensuring a better future for our kids. So I can't give you an answer on why they would rather have an older renovated library than a brand new library that has the technology and equipment that we all need.
And I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Basically, you would say in order to get a new library, you need another $10 million.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, but we've got more with Councilmember Young after the break. PA Preferred makes it easy to choose local and support the farmers who grow and make the food and products we rely on every day. And the variety is honestly incredible. Pennsylvania isn't just dairy and sweet corn. We're the #1 mushroom-producing state in the country. We've got apples, hops, honey, maple syrup, flowers, and even fibers from alpacas and sheep. If you want to find PA Preferred products near you, start at papreferred.com. You can search for farms, farmers markets, and local producers in your neighborhood. And with the 2026 Pennsylvania Farm Show, it's the perfect time to explore everything our agriculture community has to offer. Choose local, choose PA Preferred. Visit papreferred.com. That's papreferred.com. Paid for with Pennsylvania tax dollars. Councilmember Young, I want to talk a little bit about your experience in government. You're a lifelong Philadelphian. You graduated from Girard College, and you went to Temple University. Did we have class together?
I'm not sure. I graduated from Temple in 2008.
Okay, I graduated in 2010, so we might have had a... Did you take political science?
Yeah, I was a poli-sci major.
Okay,
yeah.
That was my minor. But tell me about your experience in government. I was reading an article from the Inquirer that said one day you'd be working in former city council member Darrell Clark's office. Another day you would be with former council member Blondell Reynolds Brown's office. And then you had an internship in the managing director's office. And that was during former Mayor John Street's administration. And I love this quote that you said, "I've learned the power of networking at a very young age. I've been preparing to run since I was 17. Tell me
Yeah.
about your experience.
So I, have always wanted to serve my community. I've always wanted to help people to the best of my ability. I've always wanted to improve lives. Just because of my own upbringing and understanding and recognizing that we can do better as people, as community, as family. We can always do better. And I wanted to be that person that enables people to do better. And so when I was a senior in high school, we had to do an internship in order to graduate. We had to have a certain number of hours. And I had the opportunity to intern in City Hall. And that internship was with former Council President Darrell Clark, Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown, and over in the Managing Director's office, all as a senior in high school. One day a week, I was in each of those offices, just understanding what was happening, just learning, just taking things in. As a high school senior, this is my very first, time in a professional setting. And so, I kind of just soaked everything in, and realizing what people do in those offices kind of really just sparked me to on this path today to become an elected official.
Was there anything surprising to you that you're like, whoa, I didn't know they did that?
Well, not as a senior in high school, no. I just was sucking it all in and just trying to see what was the job, what was the task, what's the duty, and realizing that the duty is to serve, right? And so throughout that time, throughout college, I interned in the managing director's office during the John Street administration, understanding how to serve and provide service to communities. And that's from then, public service was my passion. Helping people is my passion. I believe that's my life's calling. Went to law school afterward, but still, even during law school, I've had positions where I'm serving people, right? I interned for Senator Bob Casey's office while I was in law school. I've interned at Community Legal Services while I was in law school, right? And so, it was in me. And then the opportunity presented itself to, once I finished law school, to continue my path on service and work for Council President Darrell Clark, and I jumped on that opportunity.
It's one thing to, have like the theory when you're in classes, when, they don't give you all the responsibilities as an intern. But now as an attorney and now as a council member, you've got a lot of power. You know a lot about the city and the practical aspects of that service that you were just talking about and how things work legally. So I want to bring back the Cecil B. Moore Library issue and the reason why you're able to change the plans or have conversations with the community, with stakeholders about the plans for the library is because of the practice of Councilmanic Prerogative. It basically gives district council members the ability to say yes or no on land use decisions in their districts. So if you don't want something to happen in a district like bike lanes or zoning change, then all of city council will go along with what you say. And now this is somewhat looked at like a controversial practice. And some critics say that you basically end up being on the whims of council members and they can kill a project or not. Do you think that this idea of councilmanic prerogative is a good thing?
So first, I want to address the Cecil B. Moore Library specifically. When Rebuild was first passed by City Council, it passed with a 16-1 majority. And in that legislation, it specifically said that you must first obtain written permission of the district council member for certain projects. I'm just paraphrasing. So that was legislation that was passed by not only district council members, but at-large council members as well, to give that deference to the district council member. And when this project was thought of, it could have that signature could have been signed on by the previous council member, which it was not, right? So when we now have this codified duty, right, essentially, to sign off on certain projects, I feel like this particular project here is not in the best interest of the community as a whole, which is why I have not signed on that particular letter. So, and when folks talk about prerogative, I really believe that it's council members giving deference to their colleagues who represent that area, who should best know what the people on the ground in that particular area want to see, want to do. They're directly held responsible and liable to those people that they represent. So I don't see, many of the negatives that folks claim to exist with the practice of giving your colleagues deference for an area that they know they're an expert on, essentially.
Or that they represent.
Yes.
Communities that they represent. Do you think it's that sort of practice, or I don't know, like I'll phrase it like respect. Do you think that it's helped protect communities in certain ways? Do you think that it's being used for good?
I absolutely think it protects communities every day. Again, because
can you give me like an example?
Well, there are projects that are proposed in communities, for example, where the community may not want project that may be too dense or not enough density, or projects that are going to create negative quality of life in community. And your community wants you to stand with them. They want you to fight with them and for them on these projects to ensure that their voice is being heard. And again, I don't think that it's a prerogative thing to say you're stopping project necessarily, because in the private market, we don't have the ability to just stop a project. It's not like every single project or development project that happens in the city has to get the green light from city council. That's not true at all, right? And I just want folks to understand that, right? There are things that people can do by right, and you can go get your zoning permits and your building permits and go ahead and do what you have to do. But when you need permission from government, right? When you need a variance, when you need something else, the community should have some say. It should be a public voice in that when you're trying to get a public good. And so that's when this prerogative comes into play, because when you're using that voice for your constituents.
Okay, you described Councilmanic prerogative as a deference to others, council members. What would happen if you voted against something in someone else's district that the council member didn't want you to vote against? Would then they oppose you on something in your district? How would that work?
I'm not sure how that would work, to be honest, right?
Have you ever been in that position before?
Have never been in that position, and being in city council, I mean, I have not seen something like that happen too often. Now, everyone's not going to agree on everything, right? So, I mean, you as an independent elected official, you have the right to vote how you are going to vote, and understand what comes with that vote. And if a colleague decided that they wanted to vote a different way, that is within their right to do. But we have to understand that, in this space, we all have to work together. We want to work together because we all have common goals. And if you think you can't work with that person, then, you may have to vote a different way.
Do you think that it stops progress in any way by maybe stopping a development that some neighbors want, stopping the construction of a new building or a vacant lot, that sort of thing? Do you think it stopped progress?
I don't think it stops progress at all. It adds a community voice to progress.
Do you feel like the community, I
don't think that there would be anything that is a project that would be stopped, right? Or something that just does not happen if there isn't an idea that is within the best interest of the community, right? If something is stopped, it's because that's within the best interest of the community. So I wouldn't call that progress.
Okay. So I was reading a Pew Charitable Trust report, and it said that from 1981 to 2015, Councilmanic prerogative played a really important role, a key role in cases that led to the criminal conviction of 6 city council members. Basically, when one elected official has so much power over a single property, it can result in them getting bought off or bribed. Do you think that's a risk in this particular practice?
I think a criminal is going to be a criminal in whatever industry they're in. So whether they're an elected office or they manage a store, right? If you have criminal tendencies, that you're going to exert those tendencies in whatever industry. And so you name 6 over almost 30-something year period, but look at the number of council members total that have been on this particular body. And so I just think it's a microcosm. Again, those people are going to, a criminal is going to be a criminal.
What do you think if Philadelphia scrapped this whole city councilmanic prerogative? Do you think it would be more democratic in how things or how projects happen? Would there be less instances of corruption? Would less get through? What could happen?
I think that when it comes to I guess this prerogative, it is democratic because you're giving the community a voice through their elected representative. That is the base. That is the base of our democracy. And so I don't think there's anything undemocratic about the process at all.
Okay. Before I let you go, other than the Cecil B. Moore Library conversation, what other things are top of mind for you in District 5?
We're working on affordable housing initiatives. We have about 255 units of affordable housing that's slated to be developed within the next couple of years that our office has supported. We are focused on literacy for our children and public health for our teens. This MLK Day, we've partnered with Girard College to have a teen health fair. And so we're inviting all folks to come out to experience that. We have a ton of other affordable housing projects for home ownership being developed in the district, throughout the district. We want to make sure that people are safe in communities as well. So we're working on other safety initiatives.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for being on thanks for being on City Council. Thank you for being on CityCast Philly today.
Of course. It's good to see you.
Thank you. The coalition sent us a statement in response. I'll read part of that now. The Cecil B. Moore Library has been a site of learning and research historically. Moving the library to 19th Street doesn't make sense for neighbor accessibility. There's already a Temple Library on Broad Street that is accessible for those who live closer to 19th. It's important to have a library where Broad Street isn't accessible. The basis for the restoration and preservation is to serve the community and this neighborhood with a library that has enriched so many lives. The library is a pillar of the community that should be protected. We have never said that this building itself is more important than the use of this building as one of learning, reading, and community. The building and its use are inextricably connected. Youth having access to a standing piece of history, something that reminds them of what and who came before them, who believe in their future, is immeasurable. And be sure to listen to last week's episode from January 7th to hear another perspective on this issue involving the Cecil B. Moore Library and Councilmanic Prerogative. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode with Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young Jr., tell a friend. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.